And it does what a good joke does, which is it misdirects you and then it satisfies that setup while making a choice that has nothing to do with what it misdirected you towards.
Greetings, everyone. Come on in and have a seat up front for the Funny Muscle Podcast. If you're here, then you're looking to learn how to create laughs like a pro. So please help me welcome to the stage your co-host to help you do that, economics professor and open micer Chris Stifler and comedian turned author Mike Lucas.
What's up? So what is the lesson, today's lesson? What are we doing?
Well, today I was thinking about these heightening devices, and I have a client who I was talking to about these. And what we ended up realizing is that as a new comic, or as an organic comic, somebody who's used to being funny, a lot of times what happens is you're good at one particular heightening device, and sometimes we tend to overuse that. Like my client is really good at contrast. They do it this way in Ohio, so they should, do it this way in Texas. And he's doing a lot of different versions of contrast. And that's the way his brain works when it comes to comedy. And he noticed that right away when he was looking at his material and when he began to understand the methodology that I teach. He was like, oh, wow, I really depend on contrast quite a bit. And I said, yeah, the problem with that is the audience begins to recognize that, and then they begin to outguess you because what you're doing is you're trying to guess options, whatever, 7 through 13, and they're guessing options 1 through 6 usually. But when they get your methodology, they begin to make better guesses. And so that's why we tend to mix up our heightening devices, is so that they never know where we're coming from. They never know what we're thinking. But if you continue to repeat the same heightening device, like if you do a triplet over and over again, establish the pattern, reaffirm the pattern, and then break the pattern, and you do those three things over and over again, eventually they get, oh, that third one, we're going to break the pattern. It's just like that jokes. The first guy walks in the bar, the second guy walks in the bar, and the third guy walks in, and we always know the third guy that walks in the bar is the guy where the punchline is. So anybody who's heard a joke knows they got to wait for three things before they get the laughter. So if you hear enough jokes, you begin to predict how the joke's going to go, and you kind of tune out for the first two-thirds of the joke. Unless the guy or the girl who's telling the joke is really good. And so that's what I wanted to talk about, because the question became, can you do that? Can you just do one heightening device and be successful? And the first gut reaction that I would give you is no, of course not. That's dumb. Why would you do that? That you're an original and creative comic who's funny on a lot of different ways. So the key would be to get a good comedy lens and then misdirect them completely based on that, and then heighten your emotions over and over again, different ways, using the different 36 heightening devices. That would be how my advice to any new comic that I would give. Now, what I've come to realize is that there are exceptions to that rule. And you can talk about Rodney Dangerfield, who basically kept answering the question, I get no respect. How little respect do you get? I get so little respect that, and then he exaggerated how little respect he gets in each scenario. So you could argue that he has a similar cadence to his bits. Mitch Hedberg had a similar cadence to his bits. Who's the other one-liner, the real dry guy from old school? It's Stephen Wright. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, classic, like real, yeah.
So and someone like Stephen Wright, who's a classic one-liner delivery, and he began to be predictable because the nature of what he did was somewhat repetitive. The reason why he was so successful was because we didn't get where he was so good at thinking outside the box in terms of the misdirection and where he really is going with the joke. And then somebody who I noticed in a more modern sense is Anthony Jeselnik. Anthony Jeselnik is a very successful and famous comic in the modern world. And he's considered a really dark horse, a real dark comic who thinks outside the box and is always giving you a sick and twisted version of a joke. And he's pretty cocky about it too. He's pretty cocky about his abilities and about his skills as a writer and as a performer. And in a way, I would agree that he should be, because that's how you get across a persona like that. And that's what he has, is a persona. It's an exaggerated version of who he is. And I would call him sort of the dark. He's not really an uncle, because he an uncle you think of and they like kids, but
Yeah, he does not like
he hates
kids.
kids. He thinks kids are awful. So he's sort of like the anti-uncle, the dark anti-uncle. That's what his comedy lens is. And he does what I've noticed is a bait and switch over and over and over again. The bait and switch is the classic bait and switch is the one we always talk about, where the guy's making love to his wife on a bed and giving it to her hard and too hard, because eventually he gets kicked out of the Walmart or the Home Depot or whatever, and it turns out that the joke is that they're not at home, they're on a display bed in public. And so that's a bait and switch. It's like, I meant to, it sounds like I'm talking about one thing, but I'm really talking about something different.
Just says you hate it.
It's called, yeah. Well, no, I don't hate bait and switch. It's called the misleading game. But the bait and switch is a very simple game to play. It's basically, oh, I thought you meant this, but you really meant that. And the key to good bait and switch is finding specifics and recognition and wordplay. So we'll watch a bunch of Anthony Jeselnik's bits today, and we'll see how he uses bait and switch to a high performance level. And that's, one of the reasons people like him is because his rhythm is very recognizable. He can train the crowd very quickly and easily when to laugh and how to laugh, and to expect dark things from him. The reason why he's so successful is not just because he's a good joke writer, but also he has a real solid and clear comedy lens. The dark anti-uncle is sort of like, that's what I call him. I don't know what he calls himself. I don't even know if he considers himself to have a comedy lens or anything like it. Or he would dare to, to label himself in any way. He would definitely agree, though, that he's outside the box and that he says jokes that most of us don't think about.
I've heard him describe it as gallows humor.
Yeah, gallows humor is a great way to describe it. And gallows humor just means, he goes in a dark direction that most of us wouldn't go. So that his misleading is always misleading us into a kind direction, and then he goes in a gallows direction. And that's his game that he plays over and over and over again. The only reason why he can be successful at playing this game over and over again is because he's got such a clear comedy lens. He's so good at labeling who he is and knowing who he is, that personality is reflected in every one of his jokes. The problem with this technique, I think, this is my personal opinion, not my problem with Anthony Jeselnik. So, although I could argue that I do have this problem with him, which is it's very difficult to be real and just use bait and switch. Eventually, you got to start making stuff up, like the joke about making love to your wife and getting kicked out of Home Depot. Like, that never happened.
Yeah, right.
That never happened. And most of Anthony Jeselnik's jokes never happened. They're moments that never really happened. And we begin to recognize that about his pattern, is that he talks about things that never happened for the sake of the joke. So he's a great joke writer and he's a great bait and switcher, but he's not a great truth teller. We're not learning about who Anthony Jeselnik really is. We're learning about who this character is. And this character is, it might be an exaggeration of who he is, but it's definitely a made-up character, because all the things he talks about, I tend to doubt that they're true. Now, if there are some that are true, it sucks because they get lost amongst all the things that are not true and obviously aren't true. Because he talks about dead babies and, talks about sick, twisted, opinions. And so a lot of them are so sick and twisted, they you hope they're not true. So I thought today we could look at some of his stuff and we could just watch a guy, an expert at bait and switching. He's an expert at it, and he doesn't mind that he doesn't delve in the total truth, because that's his style. He does. I don't think he wants you to know that about him. I don't think he. I don't want to speak for him because I don't speak for Anthony Jeselnik, but it doesn't seem important to him to reveal who he is to his public, except for this made up personality, that hates kids and is antisocial and thinks he's better than everybody. I don't know that Anthony is that. If you know him personally, if that's who he is, I don't know him personally. That's his stage persona.
I mean, it sounds like it would be hard for a new comic to make up stuff the way.
It's actually, I would argue that it's easier, because when you make up stuff, you're inventing, and you're inventing in a way that makes it an easy out for your joke. It's harder to take something that really happened to you and find the funniness of that. It's easier to create a funny moment and put in the details, invent the details for it. I think
Does the audience buy it though? Like if I do 5 minutes set on a real story and then the 5 minutes set on some exaggerated having sex in Walmart story, no one's gonna buy that.
They're not gonna. They might believe your real story, but then if you do the Walmart story first, they might not believe the real story. They might go, "Oh, he's making up another story," which is unfortunate because it takes away from the fact that you are telling a real story. All right, so here's the first Jeselnik bit.
I was a hard ass. One of those guys who believe that men just learn by doing things, You don't take classes. You don't read the instructions. You just do it and you figure it out. Like when I was a kid, I never got to take swimming lessons. No, my dad would just pick me up and throw me in the water to teach himself CPR.
This is just classic easy blueprint structure here because he starts with a very general premise, right? And then says like.
So what does he do first of all? Let's see what he does, how he misdirects.
One of those guys who believe that men just learn by doing things,
So that's, my dad was this way. My dad was one of those guys that learned by doing things, right? So he tells us what he's going to do right off the bat. It's about his dad learning.
You don't take classes. You don't read the instructions. You just do it and you figure it out.
And the misdirection is, my dad taught me to do this way, right? My dad's this way, and dads teach their son this.
Like when I was a kid, I never got to take swimming lessons.
So now he's turned it to himself. I never got to take swimming lessons.
No, my dad would just pick me up and throw me in the water to.
My dad would pick me up and throw me in the water too. And then the misdirection is to force me to learn how to do it without instructions, like I said before.
Right, to sink or swim, like
yeah. And then the bait and switch is
teach himself CPR.
To teach himself CPR.
And it's like the last 3 syllables completely flip it.
Why is that a great joke? Well, it's really well written. It's well written. It's a great misdirection. There's great bait and switch, funny specifics. It stayed true to what he originally said, which is my dad is a guy who doesn't believe in taking classes or lessons. Classic bait and switch, right?
But there's like an extra layer of deepness there because like he could say, so I threw myself in the pool to teach so my father could learn how to rescue people in the water, which is not nearly as funny. But like to say CPR, like you have to make that extra leap of like, okay, he actually drowned, and now the kid's like coming back from death, pounding on his heart, and
again that reinforces what? That reinforces Anthony's comedy lens.
Yeah, gallows death.
The gallows death humor. And so let's see if he does that again here.
My brother-in-law is a conspiracy theorist, a crazy conspiracy theorist. Like my brother-in-law refuses to become an organ donor because he swears that if you get into an accident and the paramedics see that you're an organ donor, they won't try to save your life because they want to use your organs to help someone else. It's insane, but I can't argue with him. He's a paramedic. My
Boom.
bro-
So I can't argue with him is the misdirection. I can't argue with him because he makes a good point, because what he says is probably true. But no, what it really is that he's a paramedic. He's who I'm talking about. Again, a good bait and switch, funny specifics, recognition. It's all right there. And it's all gallows humor, which is that your deepest fear is true.
But this whole joke hinges on the last word, and the last word
Yeah.
completely subverts the initial setup.
And that's the whole point of the bait and switch. The whole time it's leading towards the misdirection, and then at the last second, we're there at Home Depot, right? Like that famous joke. This whole time he was talking about the concept that he's heard of, and then it turns out he heard it from his actual brother-in-law, because his brother-in-law is a paramedic. So there's a truth to it. Now, again, should we ask, do we think that his dad threw him into the pool and to practice CPR for real? Do we think that his brother-in-law is a paramedic and has given him this information for real? I
We
don't
don't
believe
care.
you don't care. It doesn't have it doesn't matter to how funny that's how well written these jokes are. These jokes structurally are so sound that they will get a laugh regardless of their truth. And they
But
seem he
he's built.
he paints it as if it is true. I'm telling you this premise and setup in a way that sounds like I'm being completely honest.
I've heard you give advice to like first timers at your Wednesday, learning sessions, and you'd ask the guy like, "Did that actually happen?" And the guy was like, "No." Well, then why are you making it up? It's not going to be as funny as the truth. So
Yeah.
how does that seems to conflict with what you told me earlier today about how it's easier to write jokes if you can make it up?
Those are two different points. I don't think I think that it's easy to make up I'm an improviser, so that's all I do as an improviser is make up bullshit and try to justify it as being true. It's really easy. When I have to examine my own life, for like we just did that today when we were talking about your potential joke about your friend losing her identity through the mail. That is the first thing I asked you was what was your emotion about it? What was your your emotional reaction to it? Because that's going to be your joke about it, because it didn't happen to you. It happened to your friend. So in order to believe you, we have to believe the emotion that you felt about it, and we have to have it there, and we have to exaggerate that in a way that still keeps the truth of that emotion solid. So if you were scared, it can be a made up scenario, but it has to be made up in a sense that shows how scared you were. Because the truth is I was scared. So, in Jeselnik's case, he's not telling us his emotional reaction to these premises. And sometimes he is. I mean, something like, my dad was this way, but he doesn't tell us how that made him feel. Like he's not exaggerating how it made him feel that his dad was a rules follower, or a guy who didn't look at the owner's manual. So yeah, I don't mean to be contradictory. I think it's easy to make stuff up and invent things to make something seem true than it is to I think it's more difficult to make humor out of what really happened, but I think it's real more truthful humor to talk about real emotions and real reactions to topics. And if you're not doing that, you're doing improv. You're making up stuff to just be funny. Now, a lot of good improv reflects the truth also. So a good improv scene reflects a truth that we all recognize and we laugh about. And that's the really good improv. So, okay, so here's,
But again, there's depth to this bit too. Like there's like the added layer of like put the pieces together for the because even saying when you reveal he's a paramedic, you have to put the extra layer of step like, oh, if he's a paramedic, so he actually has done this, which means then
yeah,
he's an organ thief. Like
right.
there's like a level like
Well, that's why I think Anthony Jeselnik is so successful, is because he's perfected this type of joke. And this type of joke forces the audience to do a little work and put some pieces together. And audiences love doing that. And a lot of times that's why some laughter takes a minute to get, because it's
yeah,
the audience putting that thing together in their head.
those are delicious when you because
Right.
the Walmart I was having sex in the Walmart mattress guy. There's no extra layer of put it together. Is there? It's just kind of like, oh yeah, okay, we
Yeah,
got to roll
it's
with it.
you're putting together the picture of, oh my God, this whole time they were having sex and they were in front of people who were trying to shop for a regular experience of shopping. So you're putting that together in your head. I think that counts. So here's another Jeselnik bit.
I have a friend who works for the FBI. He pretends to be a 12-year-old girl, goes on the internet, and chats with child molesters all day. I don't know what he does for the FBI, but it's
Okay, do we believe that he has a friend who works for the FBI? That's a very believable thing, right? That's something that could be true, could not be true. Now, do we believe Anthony Jeselnik? I don't believe him for a second. But it could be true.
He pretends to be a 12-year-old girl, goes on the internet, and chats with child molesters all day.
Okay, so right away, he says this is his friend who does this. Now, whether or not he has a friend who does this, we all recognize the truth that there are people who do this, and that this is the way to catch child predators. And we also agree that we don't like child predators.
But the norm here is he's talking about the work he does at his job.
Yeah.
Goes on the internet and chats with child molesters all day. I don't know what he does for the FBI, but
He subverts it right
There's
there.
the bait and
Flips it.
switch.
Yeah.
So again, let's
He does such a good job paint. You paint the picture too with his very simple details. He's very economical with his words.
again that he's a brilliant joke writer. Like he's a wordsmith, and he memorizes them word for word. And there's not a word out of place. And that's how you know a good joke writer is if you take any word out, the joke falls apart. And if you add any joke in, it sounds like it's too much. Or any word in. What's that?
There's no fat on the bone.
No fat on the bone, exactly.
Completely. Yeah.
So let's listen to this one again. But listen to that crowd. He's got to sit there and wait for the crowd to laugh because they know when to laugh and they know that it's a joke. And again, does this reflect his dark lens? Yes. Again, it does.
I have a friend who works for the FBI. He pretends to be a 12-year-old girl.
So right away, he works for the FBI. He pretends. So we assume what's the bait and switch? The misdirection is that this is what he does for the FBI.
Yes, and you recognize it because it's Hansen. What's his name?
Chris Hansen.
Right. To catch predator.
Yeah, and Chris Hansen works with as that or with people who do that because you see these women who pretend to be the 12-year-old.
Goes on the internet and chats with child molesters all day.
So right away we're like, that makes perfect sense. He's got a friend, works for the FBI, goes on the internet and chats with.
I don't know what he does for the FBI, but
so it's a funny joke because it again, bait and switch. We thought you meant one thing, but he really means the other, and the other one makes total sense. And it does what a good joke does, which is it misdirects you, and then it satisfies that setup while making a choice that has nothing to do with what it misdirected you towards, but it still satisfies that setup. That because it's true that if it he's got a friend who works for the FBI, but he doesn't know what he does for the FBI, but he also does this other crazy thing. So that could be true, the way he phrased it, and that's why being a wordsmith is so important, is because he has to phrase it exactly right. Because if he doesn't, people can go, you said da da da, doesn't count, and then they'll call him on it because one off word creates a different truth that he's trying to set up, even though the truth is bullshit. I don't think he had a friend who worked for the FBI. I don't think if he did have a friend who worked for the FBI, his friend did that. And if his friend did that, I don't think that that's what he did for the FBI and was actually a pervert. Like that doesn't strike me as like something that would be true that he said, but it makes perfect sense for the joke.
But how do you write a joke like that? What's the template for doing homework and trying to write a bait and switch joke? Do you just try to write a bunch of setups that are just recognizable like scenarios and then ask yourself, how do I subvert it? Or
Yeah, you got to
what?
get good. You got to get good at the premise and setup are the key to the good bait and switch. And the premise and setup over and over, you are seriously creating this misdirection that sounds like it sounds like if you zoomed out and just did the voice of the comic, it'd be like, okay, this time I'm totally serious. This time I forget all the jokes I made. This time I have something I really want to talk about that's totally serious. I'm just kidding with you. Okay, this time I'm something totally serious, and this is really what I mean. I'm just kidding with you. Okay, this time I'm
Yeah.
totally serious, and like that would be the over and over a repetitive voiceover that would be happening for this type of humor and all type of humor. That's what we do as comics. And that's what I love about Anthony Jeselnik's form is he is a traditional old school comic who does premise, setup, punchline, misdirection, comedy lens, and one or three or four particular types of heightening devices that he nails over and over again. And he's a wordsmith and he's true to his comedy lens. So like there's nothing more you could want from a comic except for the real truth. And that's what real new comics give you. They give you that, and he doesn't give you that. So if you're looking for that, you probably don't prefer Anthony Jeselnik's style. If you want someone like David Chappelle is talking about real things that happened to him. He's talking about his court cases and about racism and about things that in Hollywood and living around white people and like things that are really happening in his daily life. So we don't expect David Chappelle to make up shit and just talk about something unless he presents it as I'm making this up. Like if he says, "Oh, I'm glad, I don't call 911 because if I do, that tape is going to make it on the news. I'm scared. I shit my pants."
Yeah.
That never happened. But he's heightening his fear of if I'm going to use this system, this is what's going to happen to me. So it's real. So he's using an example to exaggerate a real feeling, a real fear. So, but Anthony Jeselnik he's it's a blessing and a curse because he's stuck in this this routine. He's got to do this type of joke. This is what people expect from him. This is what they want from him. This is what they love about him. And I think this is what he loves to do. I think, but I don't know because he says a lot of weird things in his interviews. I watch him a lot in interviews.
He's like built this bubble, this where you expect the bait and switch and you expect the kind of half truths. But if he would suddenly do a 5 minute bit on like an improv bit that would be happy and go lucky, would that burst the bubble then? It would
Yeah.
contradict his kind of like always tight persona.
I think it would be confusing. I think it would confuse the crowd, and I don't think they'd like it. But again, you can't doubt Anthony Jeselnik's writing ability. So if he chose to do that, he might figure out a way to do it because he's that good. So I don't want to say that he could never do that. You know what I mean? Like that would be doubting his own abilities, and I would never doubt his abilities because I don't know what he's capable of. But in terms of as an audience member, when a comic trains me when to laugh and how to laugh and does that over and over again, and then doesn't do that and does something totally different, it's weird.
Hmm.
I'll just say it's weird. It stands out. And I've not seen him do that, but all I've really seen, I've never watched him do a complete hour-long show. You have. I've not watched Anthony Jeselnik. I've just seen him on social media do clips. So that could be the product of just doing clips. He might
Yeah.
have more stuff in his act. He might have, these might be the easiest to share. He might be sharing these because this is the
They're packageable and tight and
exactly
they stand
They're
alone.
great little jokes that you can package together. So again, that's based on that only. Now you've seen him live. Does he do different stuff, or is this his thing?
No, it's always bait and switch. It's
It's his
always
thing. Yeah.
but the game is he's going to bait and switch and he's going to turn
You
right
can't
suddenly.
outguess him.
And you can't guess it.
You
Yeah.
can't
That's
outguess
what's
him, and that's how good he is.
yeah.
Yeah. So here's another example.
Last year was a sad year for my family. Last year, my mom should have been celebrating her 60th birthday. But because of drugs, alcohol, and other terrible decisions, we all forgot.
Last year was a sad year for my family. Now, again, that could mean two things. My
Yeah.
mom died, or we were all on drugs and alcohol and forgot my mom's birthday. So
Yeah.
it counts. So the misdirection is there.
His setup always has a double meaning or has
Yeah.
two doors to open.
And that's the whole point of bait and switch. It's wordplay. It's a play on words. A sad year for my family. Why was it a sad year? Because we got all fucked up and we forgot my mom's birthday. But that's that's the misdirect.
Is there a different term though for what that is? Because when I hear wordplay, I like, well, there was ice in the room. Oh, you mean ice, the immigration customs enforcement, or do you mean frozen water?
Yeah,
That
but
that to me,
that this is the same thing. This is last year was
but
a bad year for my family is the term we're miss, it was
I
a
guess that's
bad
more of a phrase though. It's a
phrase.
phrase that
Yeah,
gets
phrase
yeah.
play. Yeah. Wordplay is basically playing with like what we typically identify as the meaning of something. So it could be a phrase, it could be a term, it could be a couple
Okay.
words. Yeah, but
That's a little, that's helpful for me to think about phrase play because phrase
yeah.
play feels a little different than just being, oh, I use this word and actually I meant that the other meaning of that one word.
But you could argue that it could be reduced to one word. Was difficult. Difficult would be, like the word, instead of all for my family and all that. But the word difficult could mean it was difficult because of death or difficult because we got fucked up and forgot my mom's birthday. Because and the other
We've been celebrating her 60th birthday.
we could have been celebrating her 60th birthday.
Could
So
have been.
celebrating, you could have been,
Yeah.
could be, the wordplay. We could have been except for her death. We could have been except for we were fucked up. Again, we were at the Walmart looking, not in our bed.
But because of drugs, alcohol, and other terrible decisions, we all forgot.
But because of, again, this is a misdirection. This is what you say when someone just died.
Right. There's a
Always,
recognition phrase there. You kind of feel like
yeah, there's a recognition. When
yep.
someone dies in your family, this is how you tell people.
Yes, too soon.
It-
If it
well,
wasn't for that, yeah.
Yeah, it was a tough year for us. We could have been celebrating my mom's 60th birthday, but she passed and she didn't get to celebrate it. Like that's a very tip. Now, is his mom even that age? I don't know, man. I don't believe it. And again, the pause there at the end of all his bits is to let people catch up. We forgot. Oh, it's bad because they were the ones on drugs and alcohol. Oh, not the mom. Oh, the mom is alive.
Yeah.
Oh, right. There's a lot to get, and
Yeah,
that's
he would
what
not
he
if
does.
he kept talking, he would ruin his bits. He would step on the laugh because it takes
Exactly. And
a
that's
couple
another
seconds.
brilliance of his delivery. He understands exactly who he is and how he does it, and he allows the audience time to enjoy it. And if he didn't, then it would go right over their head, or a lot of their heads, or they'd feel rushed. And part of the joy of his material is we put those pieces together in our heads based on what he gave us, and then we put the rest of the pieces together based on his punchline. And we realized we were wrong in what we thought at first because he misdirected us. That was his whole plan the whole time.
And he has no words after the punchline.
He doesn't do tags. He doesn't do act outs. He doesn't do cut forward to. He doesn't do the voices of the people he's talking about. Oh, I don't know why I should do. He doesn't do any of that stuff. That's all new school. He's old school.
Yeah. But even in the joke, there's no extra wasted words. Like it would make no sense if
No.
said we all forgot because we all forgot on Wednesday. But it's we all forgot. And as soon as that
Wow.
word hits.
Maybe, and who knows how this process went. Maybe the first way he wrote it was we all forgot on Wednesday. And then he cut out on Wednesday and he realized he could still do it. Because that's the way a good writer works, is they just keep ripping out words
Chisel.
until you no longer need, till you're left with, we need every one of these kind of a thing. Amazing how consistent he is, right?
Yeah.
And I think this has a lot to do with why he's sort of snobby about comedy and about other comics, is because he puts a lot of work into his act. This takes a lot of work to write this well. So I get that he's a little resentful for people who do less work to get the same results.
A month ago, I went to a wedding. Craziest wedding I've ever seen. After the ceremony, every single person there took Molly. The bride took Molly. The groom took Molly. The parents, the grandparents, every single person there was on Molly. Craziest shit I've ever seen. I blacked out around midnight. Woke up the next morning in a fucking hammock somewhere. Went and found the bride and groom, and I was like, hey guys, did I do anything embarrassing last night? And they said, yeah, Anthony. You spiked the punch with Molly.
Right. So the whole time he's misdirecting us to think that it was a hippie wedding and they all took Molly. Turns out it was him that gave it to him.
Yeah.
And that was the quickest way he could get to the fact that it was him that gave the Molly. Right? Bait and switch. I thought you meant it, but you really meant.
Because the norm there was, did I do anything wrong? Like, I was drunk at a wedding. Did I do anything wrong? Did I personally, like, did I get naked or did
like
I?
We were all on Molly. Did I do anything weird?
Yeah.
Yeah, you gave everybody Molly. and that's a funny, and I like does he have friends that just got married? I don't know. I don't believe him. Did he go to that wedding? I don't know. I don't believe him. Did he spike the punch? Is there a punch at a wedding?
Can you spike punch with Molly, or is it? I don't know how to take
punch with Molly either. I don't know, but I don't believe him. So, and all of this, I don't believe any of it, but yet I believe it all because the way he says it in a very believable way. So he has to continually push bullshit and sell it as real. And that's part of his persona. Again, I'm being serious now. I want to talk about a wedding and everybody got messed up and I got messed up and I was afraid I embarrassed myself. Like that's a serious confession. And then it turns out I did. I gave everybody Molly, and that's the punchline.
That was me.
So it's like I'm serious. I'm just fucking with you. I'm serious. I'm just fucking with you. And it's a rhythm. And Anthony trains the audience that way of how to laugh in that rhythm. And it never disappoints because it's really well written.
Does his rhythm changes though? His length of jokes kind of vary. He's not just ba-da-da, ba-da-da, ba-da-ba.
No, he sometimes takes more time with his setups.
But that's kind of a technique. That's sort of like the Quentin Tarantino technique where something terrible is going to happen and the Nazis interview and it's just like drawn out and he knows.
Yeah. Audiences love that. The suspense is great. And I'm serious. And the audience goes with him on that ride each time. Oh, he must be serious this time. Oh, let's see how serious he is. Oh, he was just messing. And that's a rhythm. And I always teach that you have to find your own rhythm. What's your rhythm of delivering your material? And are you consistent across your jokes so that the audience begins to know when to laugh? And it's that story I told you about the famous comic in Orlando when I was with the owner and the comic was like, watch, I'll give me a word and I'll say it during my rhythm and it'll get a laugh. And sure enough, he did. In the middle of his act, he spit out watermelon or whatever the word we gave him was. And it got a laugh for no apparent reason, except for it was in the right rhythm. And that's the key to these jokes. Here's another one.
My girlfriend and I argue a lot. It's mostly her arguing with me kind of thing. Like I should just keep my mouth shut. Every fight we get into is my fault. I should just keep my mouth shut, but I can't because I'm so fucking funny.
So that's a partial joke, right? He let a little air out of the bag, but again, it's so far we believe him, he and his girlfriend fight a lot. It's her fault. But he sort of set us up with a generality, which is, I can't keep my mouth shut because I'm so funny. A little bit of a bait and switch there, right?
Yep.
Because we think, he has a emotional problem or whatever, but he's the switch is, but I'm funny. So he does a little bait and switch within a bait and switch. Oh, and he's doing a generality, which is I am this way, and then he's going to do a specific. Like the other night we were at this party, and the specific will prove his general point, which is a very professional way to present a joke, a generality, and then a specific that reinforces that generality.
Like a couple of nights ago, we go to a party, and we get trashed, completely wasted. We wake up in bed the next morning, completely hungover. And I know I should just keep my mouth shut. But instead, I roll over, And I say, listen, baby, don't get mad. But I think your mom tried to have sex with me last night. And she hit the roof. She goes, Anthony, that's impossible. And I said, oh, well, in that case, you should always wear makeup.
So again, the
That's
misdirection
dark.
is
Yeah,
your
mean.
mom hit on me, and the bait, that's the bait, and the switch is, oh, it was you without makeup. You look like your mom. And again, we put that together, right? We have to put the piece that together in our head. Oh, he didn't fuck her mom. She wasn't wearing makeup, and she looked old to him.
That's mean too. Like you wouldn't be able to get away with like if
But
you did
again,
your bit.
we don't believe him.
Yeah.
So we don't
He's
know
got
that he really did this.
He's built that world where you accept those jokes and
Yeah.
he's like it.
He beat a kid. He told his mom to fuck off. He told his girlfriend that she was better looking with makeup on. You know, does he really do these things? I doubt it.
But he almost like as a method actor then, right? Because he stays in that
Yeah.
persona even in interviews and podcasts and
Yeah, he's good at that. He's you know, he's found a small niche and he's mastered it. And they're all like gallows humor is pretty tricky because you have to have a dark sense of humor anyways. You have to be in a weird, dark place to think that this stuff is funny. Same with his audience. When you do this type of humor, you're limiting the kind of audience that you're going to get. Now, if you do it this well, you get all the audience, and it's a niche audience, but it's all yours. And so he's so successful at it that he's got a small portion of the audience, but it's a lot of people.
Tiny little 9-year-old girl lives in my neighborhood. The glass eye.
Serious, right? Tiny little girl in my neighborhood lives with a glass eye. I'm serious. This is something touching.
Scares the shit out of me.
Emotion scares the shit out of me. Why? Well, because I'm afraid it's going to happen to me. I'm afraid that someone I love is going to be the same way. I'm afraid that it's ruined her life.
Terrifies me to my very core.
How scared? Terrifies me to my very core. It doesn't get a laugh. He's just reinforcing how scared he is.
Anytime she sees me, she just fucking chases me around. Until she gets her eye back. It is the worst.
Right? So the joke is, I've stolen her eye. Again,
Yeah.
dark gallows humor. Do you think there's really a girl that lives by him that has a glass eye? No. Do you think he really steals her eye? No. For the sake of the joke, though, it's funny. Like, I'm not jealous of him, but there's a little bit of envy that someone could be that good at that one particular heightening device. Like, I've never seen that before. That's a unicorn to me. Because most comics I watch are combining heightening devices, and that's their brilliance, is their ability to always find a new heightening device and then combine it with ones that we didn't see combined with it before. And that's what I would always like sort of take my hat off to and respect. And this is something different. This is something I've never seen before. So it's almost like I don't know how to feel. It's good.
Cool.
Cool, man. All right, brother. Talk to you soon.
All right. Sounds great. See ya.